16. The search for a master principle. One of the persistent problems which haunts human thought, and philosophy and theology in particular, is the search for a master principle, a universal, and sometimes a particular, in terms of which all things can be understood. The history of human thought gives us a succession of master principles and ideas, and a remarkable variety of them. These include yang and yin, karma, kamis, ideas or forms, mathematics, evolution, and the existential self, and much, much more. The quest for a master principle is, in essence, anti-biblical and is destructive of Christianity. Its influence through the centuries has been to misdirect Christian thought and to lead it into alien and destructive channels. Not until we rid ourselves of this futile quest can we begin to think biblically. Unfortunately, all of education, virtually, is committed precisely to this quest, and it is the essence of humanistic education to seek a master principle. That master principle was once viewed as more or less transcendent, and was sometimes even named God. Now it is seen as immanent, and, even more, as entirely the product of man. In any case, it is anti-biblical and is destructive. No master principle or idea exists in, behind, or beyond the universe. There is rather the master person, the triune God. Between an abstract master principle or idea and the totally personal God, an unbridgeable gap exists. An idea is an abstraction. The triune God is totally personal, real and concrete. But this is not all. Because the being of God is not complex, but simple and unified, all aspects of God are equally God. There is no aspect of God which represents the principle of deity, whereas other aspects are peripheral and secondary. God is totally God in all his being. Thus, to view one aspect of God as representing the essence of his nature and or deity is to isolate that one aspect as God over God. We cannot view God's sovereignty, his oneness, his triunity, his omnipotence, omniscience, eternity, grace, holiness, righteousness, his power to create, or anything else as alone the essence of his being. God is God in all his being, and to exalt one aspect over others is to make that abstracted and abstract idea a God over God. The same is true when we approach the Bible. If we try to probe and reach a word behind the word, that is, a master principle which is beyond the word, we see the word as an interesting surface or clothing which veils the idea or the master principle. We then seek an abstract word and deny the actual word. In Gnosticism, this very strong belief in master principles and ideas led to the treatment of the Bible as a code book pointing beyond itself to a realm of ideas. This bald Gnosticism is a very minor aspect of our times, but, more sophisticated in form, the same impotence governs education. The quote higher end quotes the education, the more impersonal and abstract the learning. Critical analysis seeks to penetrate beyond the real and the personal to the abstract and the impersonal as somehow the truth about things. In its crudest form, this error has been commonplace to the sciences, but as a product of philosophy and theology, the world has been reduced to mathematics, to a machine, to matter, to atoms, to evolution and the like. In my student days, when dead and pickled frogs were brought in for dissection, the professor stated that, in the course of our dissection and reading on the anatomy of the frog, we were to master everything significant to be known about the frog. One girl, PD, in humour rather than earnest, quipped, "But this frog is dead." The professor, not at all amused, replied with an expression common to the 1920s and 1930s, "Life is an epiphenomenon." Life and consciousness were seen as irrelevant byproducts. The abstraction from life was reality. Thus, for the modern university and seminary, the wisest are those who can think most abstractly. The more they reduce reality to ideas, the greater their learning and status, and the deadlier the consequences for the church and for society. The quest for an impersonal abstraction is a quest for nothingness, and those who seek it become themselves nothing, and an encumbrance on society. Abstraction, Latin ab, from, and trahere, to draw, means the separation of a quality, idea, aspect, or principle from a total object. It rests on the premise that the best means of understanding the total object is by means of an abstraction of its quality or principle. Analysis comes from Aristotle and his Analytics. Analysis considers all aspects on a par in order to isolate the key aspects for purposes of knowledge, that is, for abstraction. The goal of analysis is to isolate, to dissect. Man, the thinker of abstract principles, having analysed, isolated, and abstracted, then, after Kant, plays God by means of synthetic judgments which view the world as will and idea. Truth becomes what man abstracts by analysis and puts together by his logic. Such a truth is not only abstract, it is, finally, a mental construct and no more. An education which begins with the faith that the living God is a person, not an abstraction, and that all creation is a personal fact brought forth by the totally personal God, will seek to further the practical implications of that truth. It will work to further knowledge, righteousness, holiness, and dominion. It is not an accident that only out of Christian cultures have science, technology, and agriculture developed to a considerable degree. The concreteness of our faith requires it. The hostility to abstractness appeared clearly in the preliminary principles of the Form of Government of the Presbyterian Church in the USA, 1788, Chapter 1, Article 4. That truth is an order to goodness, and the great touchstone of truth its tendency to promote holiness, according to our Saviour's rule, "By their fruits ye shall know them," and that no opinion can be either more pernicious or more absurd than that which brings truth and falsehood upon a level and represents it as of no consequence what a man's opinions are. On the contrary, they are persuaded that there is an inseparable connection between faith and practice, truth and duty. Otherwise, it would be of no consequence either to discover truth or to embrace it. The humanist, however, believes in pure education. That is, even when vocational, it is abstract and seeks to reach abstract principles. In its greatest purity, it is learning for learning's sake. But not because truth is the object of learning, but because man can best realize his potentialities by developing his grasp of abstractions. The result is that, the more learned the man, the more commonly he is incompetent in the world of concrete things and peoples. He can handle abstractions, but not reality, unless somehow he can reduce it to abstractions. Thus, in a small city with only a single Negro family, moderately successful, popular, accepted, and at ease, a civil rights administrator for an area, a college graduate, sought to analyze the local situation in terms of sociological abstractions. The fact was that the family was godly, hard-working, and personally a pleasure to know, but this fact did not constitute a valid abstraction for understanding, quote, race relations, end quote, in that community. This simple incident pinpoints the problem. The humanist seeks an abstraction from the facts to understand the facts. The Christian seeks the creator of all facts as the means of understanding the facts. The humanistic biblical commentator tries to analyze the situation of a Bible passage historically, then to abstract from that an idea which will account for the facts. The Christian sees God as the source of the world, the situation, and the history, and sees that totally personal God at work in all things. Men seek to project a master principle or idea into the heavens as the truth about things. However sophisticated the apparatus and intellectual ingenuity of such thinking, it remains idolatry. The search for a master principle or idea is an attempt, in reality, to deny the living God and to create an idol. It is comparable to Aaron's idolatry. Aaron created the golden calf, but when confronted by Moses, tried to say that the idol came out of the gold and fire as a product thereof. And I said unto them, Whosoever hath any gold, let them break it off. So they gave it to me. Then I cast it into the fire, and there came out this calf. Exodus chapter 32, verse 24. Master principles and ideas, from the Greeks to the present, are like Aaron's golden calf. They are fashioned by men, but supposedly appear miraculously as self-generated facts. But they are man-made idols and abstractions. Systematic theology cannot be systematic abstractionism and idolatry. The personal and living God requires a faith which bears fruit, good fruit, and moves from faith to live in terms of establishing knowledge, righteousness or justice, holiness and dominion in every area of life and thought. Godly education must be the same. It arms the people of God for battle, victory, and dominion. Anti-biblical education abstracts ideas from reality and scholars from the world of wholeness and action. Christian education and systematic theology immerses the godly into that world and requires an accounting of God's people. When God called his covenant people Israel and gave them the promised land, that land was not a safe harbour, but the main highway of the ancient worlds. Israel could be faithful or apostate, but it could not be abstract. The Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5 verse 1 to chapter 7 verse 29, and the Great Commission, Matthew chapter 28 verses 18 to 20, do the same with the new Israel of God,